Every able-bodied exile we got.
What's happening, guys? This is James Blonde with MMOHuts.com. This time bringing you a first look at Wildstar. Okay, so I know we've talked about this in the past. Yes, this game is mainly pay-to-play, but we have covered things in the past that were pay-to-play or buy-to-play for that matter, and you guys really seem to enjoy it. So, seeing that we were following Wildstar in the beginning, when it teased us about being free-to-play and got you guys all hyped up, I figured why not show it off. NCSoft actually reached out to us and gave us permission to record some footage and talk about the game, which is, honestly, it's kind of rare. So, if it bothers you that the game is not free-to-play, just remember, you don't have to watch the video. Okay, so now that that's over with, let's start taking a general look at the game's features. I know a lot of you may know what to expect in the game because you followed along with the trailers and dev speaks that they've been releasing over the past couple of months. But I can say that it's a little bit hard to put those things into perspective until you actually get some time in the game. So I'll show you guys some of the most notable features, how they work, and what I've really enjoyed so far. Also, guys, keep in mind that Carbine and NCSoft gave us special permission to show off the game as it is in a tightly closed beta. That's why you'll see watermarks all over the footage. So if you have access to the game, don't post videos about it just yet. There's still a really heavy NDA in effect. Now, no matter which faction you choose, Exile or Dominion, the first 2 or 3 levels are training missions, as you can probably expect in most games, which actually offer a lot in terms of introduction to the game. It's interesting though, because playing as a character from both factions, I noticed that even though the story, the tasks, and of course the environments were different, they were nearly exact mirrors of each other in a sense. They're really parallel. Both sides started out in a cryo chamber. They both had you meet, or in the Dominion's case, electrocute NPCs. They both had you explore a room for lore, and they both had you fight a mini-boss at the end. And then make a decision on where you wanted to land on the planet that you were set to land on. Which is awesome. Having optional decisions in this game keeps you really hooked into the game, especially when they're this early on. I mean, I still wonder what would have happened if I took my McCory to Crimson Tide versus Leviathan Bay. And so yeah, if you haven't figured this out so far, the game is entirely filled with options and choices. It's a pretty common theme, and it's awesome. You can even choose to do dynamic quests while you're still in the tutorial part of the game. My Explorer path had me drop down to these generators and actually turn them back on to keep the power up in the spaceship or whatever it was. It was really cool though. I mean, you wouldn't have thought to jump down and do that sort of thing, but it actually was just a in-passing quest. And so you're pretty much always in a position to choose what you want to do, and with the game having a lot of convenience features like calling in quests, you're always going to new areas and never really having to, go back and forth that much. Which is nice because this is something that you might actually associate with the typical grind and not have to worry about so much in this game. But when it comes to choices, most of the dynamic quests and choices you're given in the game originate from the choices that you make before creating your character. And what I mean is, if you didn't know already, the game is set up in several layers when it comes to making your character. You've got the choice of 2 factions, Exile and Dominion. You've got the choice of race, which also have their own little characteristics and whatnot. You've also got a choice of class, which is typical. And of course you can choose your path. Now, choosing your path is like selecting what encounters or adventure types you would like to see and have in the game. It's a really great concept, and it's simple really because it lets you go about playing the game more like you would want to play the game. For example, I picture Wildstar as a MMO platformer, a lot like I guess a 3D MMO Rayman game or something. And the reason for that is because there's a path for players who like that idea. So my first choice, of course, was the Explorer path for that exact reason. So my first character, I chose a human exile, and I was questing and exploring areas when path quests popped up in the bottom right corner here, and of course, I felt the need to follow them and then ended up getting sidetracked climbing a huge tree to get to the top. It's kind of what I was looking for in the game. And so these are various quests that you'll have no idea when they're going to pop up, or even if they're going to pop up for you. You might make several characters with Explorer paths, and you might not get the same quest next time, which is a really cool aspect in the game. And like everything else in the game, you get experience for doing these things. So you're essentially getting experience for doing something that you plan to do because you like doing those things. It's really as simple as that. It's not really that groundbreaking. Now, on my second character, my Dominion character, seeing that I was the McCory, the highly efficient killing machines of the bunch, I took the soldier path, which set me up with missions that had me defending an object from wave after wave of enemies, even several at a time. Put it this way, if you like to go out and kill stuff, a lot of stuff, the soldier path is definitely the way to go. The cool thing is that these paths are not affected by the class you choose, which gives you a nice mix of playstyle, and the classes themselves are set up fairly universal and mixed. So that means if you decided to be a medic or engineer and take the soldier path, you can still dish out the damage necessary to enjoy the side missions associated with that path. And if that isn't enough, there are tons of different things in the game that only your path has access to, which is really cool in that you get to experience a section of the game that other paths do not. Unless, of course, you're grouping with several other players, because then you come across an area, say, only an explorer path can open up, and you've got several other paths in your group. You can then travel even more places you couldn't have accessed otherwise. For example, say your explorer path opens up an area, and inside that area are new experiences for, say, the scientist path, or perhaps even the soldier path. These situations in the game are really exclusive to the right situations, but also show off how in-depth the construction of the game can be. Alright, so if you don't know this already, there are some really detailed trailers showing off each and every class, so I won't go into detail on all of them. Mainly because I haven't got to try them all yet, like I wouldn't mind doing for the sake of how in-depth the game can be, and also trying to find corresponding similarities between the choices that you can make, kind of like Fallout New Vegas. How many different ways can I play this game? So, I'll talk about the classes that I chose specifically, but not just yet. The customization in the game, as you can probably imagine, is awesome. You've got various things that you can change according to the race that you choose, and within that you've got several accessories that you can also change up. Like the Makari. They're robots, so changing what would be facial hair on the humans is changing the way the accessories looks on the sides and front of the face on the Makari. All except for the Chua on the Dominion side are not gender-specific races, and there's no doubt a variety when it comes to the look of the various races. The Chua may later on get their female counterpart, but who knows? Maybe there's a storyline reason why there's only a male Chua. Concepts in this game are kind of weird. But there's one thing about customization, however, that I didn't quite get, and it's how they offer great detail with all of the facial features and accessories that have to do with the face, but not much in terms of facial expressions or body physique for that matter. There are only about 9 or 10 different options for face types on each race, and they all look good, don't get me wrong, but they're all basically the same. All the males have a concerned or aggressive look to them, and all the females have the sexy look. Typical. See, if you look here, no matter how much I randomize, there are two things that always stay the same: the facial expressions and the physique. I just thought this was odd, seeing that you have facial options that nearly let you change the diameter of each nostril, but don't have the option to change your overall height of your character. Now, for sure these options are something that they plan on adding to the game, but for now it's almost like you're getting an illusion of detailed character customization. It's great while you're customizing and changing through your options, but in the end you look at the character and realize you kinda look like everyone else, or at least a slight variation of one of the set faces you choose from the beginning. So a simple way of saying this is, you can change your facial features, you just can't change the way you look. Oh, and they don't have a boob slider, but in this case it's probably because all the boobs are one size fits all. Alright, so moving on. Let's talk about combat. The best part of combat is, of course, the variety of skills. And what I mean by this is, from one skill to the next, there might be a completely different method to using that skill. For example, with my Spell Slinger here, my first ability is pretty straightforward. I fire my pistols, dealing damage in a cone shape, as you can tell by the telegraph. But the nice thing here is it has a short cooldown, and if I tap it as I watch this meter here, when it gets to the end, I can use it again really quickly. Quick draw, in other words. And as you can tell, I can also use this skill while moving, which is another nice feature. My second skill, however, I can't use while moving, and it's a charge-based skill. The longer I let it charge, the more damage it deals, and that too is represented by the telegraph. You can see the sections at the end kind of building up there. So it's cool that almost no two skills are alike in that manner. My third skill is a utility skill. It's a blink skill that's good for getting out of the way of something really dangerous or stunning up to 5 enemies at a time, because when I pass through them it stuns them. And this is something that I can use while running, walking, whatever, and it can be a good way to get across something or get somewhere slightly quicker. The Makari Engineer, on the other hand, has a first skill that is very similar, a basic medium-range blast with the rifle, but the second skill depends on the use of the other skills, or at least the first skill. See, as I use the first skill here, you'll notice that on this meter, which is something that each class has and is different accordingly, it's being charged up, and then it gets consumed once I use the second skill, electrocute, which is a channeling skill, dealing damage over time. This puts a lot more meaning to the order of skills, I feel. I mean, using the first skill to effectively use the second. I like that. Now, one of the cool aspects of the engineer is a lot of his skills are ones that summon bots that follow you around like pets that also have different duties and perks. The first bot you get here is designed for taunting and dealing a little bit of damage to enemies while also tanking them. Once you summon him, he sticks around and you can command him like you would a functional pet in a lot of games. Later on, you get more bots as skills that serve different purposes, like some that heal you, heal your allies, some that attack with you, and so on. And that's one cool thing about the various classes in Wildstar. They each can be set up to do a small amount of each of the various roles. Like, for example, even the warrior has enough ability to heal slightly. And I think that's an important part in this game. It lets you choose a unique playstyle, but doesn't break you away far enough that you can't be useful in other ways in various situations, and I really like that. It probably makes it a lot easier and more entertaining to level as a medic based on that concept. Plus, players might even find classes that they normally wouldn't play a lot more fun because of those reasons. And each class also has a unique class ability. The Spell Slinger and the Engineer happen to be really similar, but the Stalker, for example, their class ability is Stealth, which is really handy for getting in or out of situations. The Spell Slinger has Enrage that boosts your attack damage significantly for a short time frame, but also has a short cooldown due to it recharging using your other skills. The Engineer, like I said before, is similar. Theirs is an exosuit that gives them all-around stats, mainly attack, but it also helps with protection as well. And the cool part about these class abilities is just like your other skills over time, and as you level, you get others to choose from that you can swap out. So all of these skills can be customized to a certain extent, plus you can build various skill sets to swap to very easily. And one thing the Enrage was good for was some of the challenges. Every once in a while a challenge will pop up if you choose to accept, and similar to Borderlands 2, you've got to kill a certain amount of enemies within a certain time frame in a certain area. And they're not the easiest things to do either, and when you complete them, you get decent loot that's also randomized. Plus, just like everything else, you get XP from it. In fact, you pretty much get XP from doing everything in the game, despite the fact that the game does seem to take a little while to level up. But that being the case, it gives you the freedom to play the game how you want in order to level your character. You can level in PvP, you can level with your war plot, as well as your player housing. And keep in mind, guys, I'm only touching the surface on stuff within this game, and I've only experienced the early game. Another cool feature in the game is the environments and environmental hazards. The hazards also have telegraphs just like everything else and can be everywhere in the form of anything. Sometimes it's a lightning storm like this here, and if you get hit, it does a lot of damage, so you have to be aware at all times, especially when you're engaged in something like fighting an enemy. However, you can use the environment to your advantage. You can pretty much lead your enemies right into traps, to kind of help in the killing process. It's actually very entertaining. And it's also really cool to see the mobs interacting with each other. Sometimes smaller mobs will pick on some really large stuff, and it's kind of crazy. And sometimes you might have to move out of the way, because here comes a stampede. There's also various environments you experience throughout the game. I haven't really experienced much yet, however I have had a challenge that had me jumping on mushrooms to catch fireflies. I know that's kind of weird. And it had a slow motion fall to it, which I can imagine suits the feeling of some of the low gravity environments in the game. But there's all kinds of stuff like that that you don't ever really expect. And along with all those things, the combat in the game is really fun, with the mobility options within the game, like dashing and double jumping, and the way the skills are set up, like I mentioned earlier. And you can get double and triple kills that make the game feel a lot more like an action game. It's really fun. Plus, there's a lot of conveniences built in, like traveling on roads gets you increased movement speed. You get a nice overview of all of what you gain from leveling up in a nice little window here. And being able to easily see where you need to go for quests and what is actually part of your quest. Things like indicating which quests are closer and then reordering them on your quest log that way. It's pretty cool. Overall, the game is just as awesome as I thought it would be, only different, with a few things I wouldn't mind seeing them change. But hey, that's beta. I'm definitely not disappointed. There's so much more to the game than what I'm able to show you guys here, and even more to be added in. But honestly, I think that Wildstar, even in the state that it's in right now, is unique enough and innovative enough in the right ways to grab the attention of players that have pretty much given up on finding a long-lasting MMORPG to play. I hate to say it, but it's easy to see why this game is pay to play. But at the same time, it's also nice that they have an option to pay for your in-game time with enough in-game currency. On their site, they show how that process works, and it's pretty simple. They expect people to buy cred, which is an in-game token that pays for 1 month of playtime, and sell that token to players that have a lot of gold, which is something that you can actually get really easy in the game, basically from everything. Now hopefully in time that method works out nicely. We've yet to see it in action because the game's early development, but as of now, I would easily suggest anyone and everyone trying the game out. It'll cost you up front, but you'll more than likely see that it's a small price to pay for a really filled out game. Until then guys, if you're looking for more information on Wildstar, head over to the game profile at MMOHuts.com. Thanks for watching guys, and until next time, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there gamers.